Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
It's quite alarming, honestly.
The spike in British Columbians asking for help as the cost of food soars again. Also,
we're really trying to get a big picture handle on how big this problem is.
Run! Why there's been an increase in attacks on teens in the Lower Mainland. And it's a case of mistaken identity. Why this very big cat sent a neighborhood into panic.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Anita Bathe. We begin tonight with the soaring cost of food, now pushing people to make tough decisions. As Joel Ballard tells us, the unaffordability means a spike in people now asking for help.
Demand is soaring at the Greater Vancouver Food Bank.
In the last 2 months, we've seen 800 to 900 new clients sign up for support with us each month. So that's easily double what we were seeing last year. So it's quite alarming, honestly.
Alarming, but asking for help is now the only way for some.
Cost of living is just becoming more and more of an issue, and I think it is absolutely behind this spike.
Over the last year, the cost of groceries jumped almost 10%. It was the single highest increase since 1981. And while some increases may seem minimal, the concern is how it all compounds.
When you look over, over a 2 or 3 year horizon, it's not hard to get to 20% higher food costs.
Not all products are rising equally.
Meat across the board has been is much more expensive, as I'm sure anyone knows who's buying it in the grocery store. Even fish, I'm a fish eater, and I noticed that is a lot more expensive.
But staple produce like potatoes have stayed pretty stable. So what's causing the increase in costs? Well, it's a mix of global supply chain issues, staffing shortages, and the war in Ukraine.
We are so, as a society, dependent on oil and gas, and a lot of it is coming from that area of the world. So, as that resource becomes harder to access, the price is going to rise.
And to top it off, many farmers and ranchers are facing climate dangers like drought, making it more expensive to produce.
And when the farmer has more expensive inputs, that shows up at the retail counter.
And when it comes to inflation as a global issue, Music says Canada is a price taker and not a price setter.
People at the household level are actually experiencing impacts and are expecting the federal government to fix it. And I don't see how that's possible in the short run.
While experts say there's little relief on the horizon, a small decrease is expected for Canadian-grown products as we head into the growing season. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Burnaby.
Meanwhile, gas prices are rising higher and higher as well. And while that's tough on everyone, it hits particularly hard for people who use their own vehicles for work. Mileage reimbursement rates just aren't cutting it anymore. And as Valpuri reports, it's not necessarily up to employers to do something about it.
There's no escaping extraordinarily high gas prices, especially when you drive your own vehicle for work.
I'm paying to do my job right now is basically what it comes down to.
Jackie Woolley drives 53 kilometres a day delivering mail for Canada Post.
So I went from spending $65 a week basically on gas to do my job, and I'm now at $115 a week doing my job.
Her cost has gone up. How much she's reimbursed stays the same. Canada Post already pays the maximum allowable mileage, 61 cents a kilometre, before the Canada Revenue Agency declares it a taxable benefit.
Even if the companies did pay them more, then that vehicle allowance completely becomes taxable, even the stuff that's below the 61 cents.
The Canadian Union of Postal Workers has petitioned CRA to temporarily raise mileage rates by at least 15% until the average price of gasoline drops below $1.75 per litre.
As a community health worker, we visit clients in their house.
If mileage rates aren't changed, it's feared that could cause yet another problem of retaining workers.
At some point, some of them will come to the conclusion it's not worth our while. We're not making that kind of money, that they may walk away from these jobs.
The BC Government Employees Union has 10,000 community health and social service workers who use their own vehicles every day.
Government has to find a solution for working people. Is it the federal government by raising the caps on what employers can reimburse, or is it the provincial government finding relief at the pump in some way?
Household budgets have already felt the impact.
We've cut back on some of the groceries that we buy. We don't buy so many luxury groceries now. We buy necessity groceries more than anything. And then John Horgan the other day or yesterday says, think twice before you get in your vehicle. Okay, so how am I supposed to do that when that's my life?
The CRA didn't respond by deadline to CBC questions. Belle Puri, CBC News, Vancouver.
An apparent and disturbing rise in teen violence has police forces across the province scrambling to figure out why. The brutal attacks can reveal a vicious mindset bent on humiliation. Renee Filipponi shows us why experts fear it's all a sign of our times.
Swarmed by her peers and left bloodied and bruised, a 15-year-old Surrey girl was forced to kiss her attacker's shoes.
My shoes? Oh, I'm sorry.
The incident from earlier this month was filmed and then shared on social media.
It was disgusting seeing not only just my daughter being physically hurt, but the humiliation and the degrading they did to her after that.
The victim's mother, whose identity we are withholding to protect her daughter, says the physical wounds are healing, but her daughter is struggling mentally.
Like, what was going through their head? Like, what makes you think that this is okay to do this to anybody?
These all look, feel like real weapons.
These are just some of the replica guns and weapons seized from teens by the Vancouver police in recent weeks, in what they are calling a disturbing uptick in violence. It includes 2 attacks in the Kerrisdale neighborhood, where more than a dozen teens assaulted other youths at knife point. In another instance, a boy was lured to Stanley Park and beaten by a group of teens. And this CCTV video shows a pellet gun being held to a boy's head before a fight breaks out.
We're really trying to get a big picture handle on how big this problem is. It's something that we started to see building throughout the pandemic.
In Victoria, police are reporting groups of more than 100 youth gathering downtown, damaging property and committing assaults.
Many of the youth are telling us that after COVID, there's really not a lot of things for youth to do. So this, for them, is an outlet.
But experts say it's more complicated than that.
We're seeing a lot of mental illness too, so aggression is, part of that package.
And it's those concerns that fueled an anti-bullying rally this weekend in Surrey, a show of support for victims left dealing with the scars of these crimes. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Vancouver.
There are renewed calls tonight for public tips in the case of a teenage girl who has been missing for more than a year. Noelle Ellie O'Soup was 13 when she left her home in Port Coquitlam around this time last year. Police have been looking for her ever since. Investigators say the teen, who is Indigenous, is known to frequent areas in the Lower Mainland and that she has nothing to fear by coming forward.
If anyone thinks they have met or assisted Ellie in the last year, police are urging you to come forward with information. Your tips really matter to us. Ellie, your loved ones and the police are concerned for you and are steadfast to confirm your safety and well-being. You are not in trouble, Ellie. We need to make sure that you are okay.
O'Soup is described as now 14 years old with short black hair and scars on her forearms. She's 5'6" tall and weighs approximately 200 pounds. Her appearance may have changed over the last year. Anyone with information about the teen is asked to contact Coquitlam RCMP or Crime Stoppers. The race to decide Victoria's next mayor is heating up with the appearance of a new challenger. 2 of the capital city's councillors are now campaigning for the job. Our municipal affairs reporter Justin McElroy is watching the race closely because he watches all of these races very closely. Justin, who's in it so far?
There are 161 municipalities in BC. We can't follow all of them closely, but Victoria is probably the 3rd most important after Vancouver and Surrey. And you take a look at the demographics here in this chart. Certainly not as many people as you might think, because Greater Victoria not amalgamated, 13 municipalities in the capital region, but a very high proportion of renters, a little lower on the income spectrum as well. 4 years ago, it was Lisa Helps winning a second term in office fairly comfortably, but she said from the outset she wouldn't be running for a third term. So the question was, who would be running to replace her? Now we have a bit of a race. Stephen Andrew, a councillor, has been running for several months, saying that he wants to change the tone in City Hall and change some of the policies. The question was, who would be supporting sort of the Lisa Helps agenda? And now we know who that will likely be. It's Marianne Alto, a councillor since 2010. She put her name in the race yesterday, and so now voters have that choice.
Okay, so two candidates already associated with City Council. So what issues are they actually campaigning on?
You know what, it's going to be similar to what we see in Metro Vancouver. A lot about affordable housing, a lot about crime and safety, a lot about climate change and Indigenous relations. But when we asked Alto what she would be campaigning on and how she would contrast herself with Andrew, she talked more about a contrast in personality.
In the context of the world that we're sitting in now, I think that concept of setting the tone and expectations around civil discourse are really, really critical. And I'm really good at that.
So we'll see. We're 5 months away from the actual election. We'll see it will retain as positive and above the board as we saw from Alto yesterday. But it searches up for an interesting contrast for Victoria voters come October.
No kidding. All right, Justin McElroy reporting tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita.
Well, a case of mistaken identity gave some Vancouver students quite the startle this morning, but thankfully, what was first reported as a cougar in Shaughnessy turned out to be actually something very different, a large house pet. Look at this. That big kitty is Savannah cat, and it had wandered away from home. Police got calls around 11 this morning of a, quote, cougar in the neighborhood. VPD initially advised students at nearby schools to shelter in place. BC conservation officers helped officers return the Savannah cat to its owners. Now, the feline is a cross between a house cat and an African wild cat called a serval cat. They're about the size of a medium dog and can weigh up to 25 pounds. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I would mistake that cat for something else, too. Okay, maybe you've had that second trimester craving. I know I sure have. Is it ice cream? Perhaps pickles? Maybe not. I don't know. For one woman, it was food from her childhood. The one problem there simply wasn't any Rajasthani cuisine in Vancouver. So she solved that problem herself. And as Zara Premji explains, that fix has become a saving grace for many others.
Walking in, you're inundated by the smells of ginger, turmeric, and fresh vegetarian Rajasthani food.
Do you need help, Auntie?
This female-run business tucked in between construction and traffic on Vancouver's East Broadway is cooking up a storm.
Initially, we had hard time finding chefs because this cuisine is totally new. There is nobody at all who knows what we are cooking, how we are cooking.
Tata Chula was born from the cravings of a pregnant woman looking for the taste of Rajasthan in India, a food that's heavily reliant on lentils, ground spices, and veggies. While she found bits and pieces of her food in other Indian restaurants, there wasn't one place she could go to that served up only Rajasthani dishes.
That's curry and rice. It's spinach curry, comes with rice, yogurt gravy, and rice.
Nidhi Tomar Chaudhary opened the doors of her restaurant in February of last year, but faced a shortage of workers.
And then I was thinking what to do. Then the idea clicked is let's hire some housewives.
And her restaurant filled a need for newly arrived women struggling to find work in Canada.
What I believe in, if a woman is independent, it's a support system for a family.
It's a place where women have had the opportunity to take their business into their own hands.
Let's have a women army. We can win anything, and that's what we are doing here.
While none of them have formal chef training, they are cooks in their own right. Previously serving up daily meals in multi-generational households in India, now given the opportunity to learn a new skill and make money with it.
I am proud of me. I'm not dependent on my husband and my family-in-laws. I'm helping them because I'm making money on my way.
That money giving women the independence outside of their household.
I have a son, I have to support him. He's handicapped, so for his treatment, I need money.
So I'm working here. I'm getting money at the same time. I'm enjoying my work also.
And Tomar Chaudhary is eager to grow the business and help out even more.
So anybody who comes like, I'm a woman, I'm looking for work, I'm happy to have her here.
Serving up not just tasty Rajasthani food, but change and opportunity as well. Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
Long regarded as some of the finest products from the sea, BC's oysters have gotten some bad press lately, hundreds falling sick across North America. We touch base with farmers on what's being done to fix their reputation coming up. Thanks for joining our commercial-free live stream tonight. 3-year-old colt Rich Strike stunned the horse racing world by winning the Kentucky Derby. But did you know the prize-winning horse has a Canadian connection? CBC's Sheila Northcott explains.
Rich Strike is coming up on the inside. Oh my goodness! The longest shot has won the Kentucky Derby. Rich Strike has done it in a stunning, unbelievable upset.
Rich Strike wasn't even supposed to compete in this year's Kentucky Derby, let alone win.
We didn't think he was going to get in, and he didn't get in the Derby. He didn't have enough points. He got in the day before because another horse scratched, or he wouldn't have even been in the race.
Blair Miller was paying close attention. He trains horses at Assiniboine Downs. He trained the mom of Kentucky Derby winner, Gold Strike. He's standing in her old stall.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool to know I trained the mother of a Kentucky Derby winner. I mean, not many people have done that, right? And nobody in Manitoba, that's for sure.
Gold Strike was born in Brunkhild, Manitoba, 14 years before giving birth to her golden child, Rich.
She was just a really classy horse from day one. Just a real nice, smart filly. We knew she was going to be a good one.
To put it in some context, winning the Kentucky Derby for horse racing is like football players winning the Super Bowl or hockey players taking home the Stanley Cup.
Mum Gold was a champion herself before she left Winnipeg for the Woodbine Oaks in Ontario. With money in their names, Gold earned $500,000 over 3 years. Compare that to the Kentucky Derby, known as the greatest 2 minutes in sports. In the last 18 seconds, Rich won $1.8 million.
Really from last to first, blue collar story here, maybe with that Winnipeg, Manitoba connection. Steel-toed boots horse with denim jeans on, beating the Blue Bloods that had tuxedos that day. So
we are world leaders in horse racing, and when something like this happens, I think there's a little bit. I told you we were good in Canada.
Jim Lawson says Rich was purchased for $30,000. That would be a higher price tag today.
Let's just say today, you couldn't come close to buying him for 10 or 20 times that. No, not 100 times that. He's probably worth in the multi-millions today.
As for Mum Gold, her old Winnipeg stall is about to get a golden plaque. Sheila North, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The reputation of BC's oyster industry is being spoiled by illness. More than 400 people in Canada and the U.S. have gotten sick with norovirus this year after eating raw oysters traced to farms off Vancouver Island. It's not the first time it's happened, and as Kurt Petrovich reports, some say it's likely not the last.
They are synonymous with living well, and the draw is to eat them raw.
Oysters, I've found in running this place, really do transcend class, they transcend race, they transcend age.
But Sean Chesney says for several months, customers stayed away, scared off by recalls of oysters contaminated with norovirus. The tainted shellfish were traced to just 14 growing sites out of about 500 in BC, but the tide of bad publicity hit an industry already hit hard by the pandemic.
It sits with the importers and governments and the food safety officials of other governments and other countries for much longer than it would with the consumer.
Finding and eliminating the culprit is a lot harder than it sounds. It can take as few as just 10 particles of norovirus to make you sick, but there can be up to 10 billion particles of norovirus in just 1 gram of human waste, about the size of a quarter teaspoon.
Test results for norovirus can take weeks, which is why oysters aren't screened for it before shipping. Instead, no less than 3 government departments oversee a raft of regulations to test the waters oysters are grown in and to prevent sewage contamination.
Shellfish farms have been closed as a result.
There's been an outbreak every year since 2016, except during the pandemic. 4 years ago, the cause was likely commercial fishermen illegally dumping onboard waste, according to the BC Centres for Disease Control.
We're not happy about this occurring again, and really we'd like to see more measures put in place to prevent norovirus getting into marine waters in the first place.
The Industry Association suggests scrutinizing more boats for compliance. Last year, in American waters adjacent to BC, the U.S. Coast Guard inspected more than 3,000 vessels of all types looking for sewage problems. Transport Canada conducted about 100 inspections of fishing vessels in all Canadian waters.
A lot of regulations, not a lot of enforcers.
But the cause may not be boats. Coastal housing and industry is pushing closer to BC's oyster farms.
So we start talking about leaky septic systems and stuff like that. Who's going to go check somebody's system? When the tide goes out, you see the...
Investigators say it could be several months before the cause of this latest outbreak is identified, and they believe another one is inevitable. Kurt Petrovich, CBC News, Fanny Bay, British Columbia.
At 6:21, a live look tonight at Victoria from the Swans Hotel. The storm has come and gone and the sun is out. A beautiful night right now. So what does the long weekend forecast have in store? Well, Johanna has all the answers coming up.
National with George McLean.
Good evening. A gigantic explosion and eruption rocked a large area around the Mount St. Helens volcano in Washington state today. At least 6 people have died, some of them apparently overcome by fumes, and 2,000 people have been ordered out of the area. The pilot of a light plane says the whole top of the mountain blew off in this morning's blast, the largest since it became active again in March. The noise of the explosion was heard 250 kilometers away, and the shock was felt in Vancouver, British Columbia, a distance of more than 300 kilometers. Colin Hoth reports.
The earthquakes and eruptions have continued through the day, but so far there's been no sign of any flow of lava from the summit. From the air tonight, the boiling cloud of smoke and ash, which rises 15 kilometers above the mountain, appeared as a solid black cliff face. Communities beneath it, across eastern Washington state, have been totally blacked out. As much as 4 centimeters of volcanic ash now covers the entire area. Residents have been advised to stay indoors. Streets are impassable to cars. Huge landslips from the north face of the mountain sent a 20-foot tidal wave down the Toutle River this morning. It forced the closure of one interstate highway for a time. 20,000 people from communities around the mountain have been evacuated.
Within 10 minutes afterwards, a tremendous electrical flashing, lightning, etc., for about 10-15 minutes. And then it started really pluming up out of the mountain itself. Very gray, brown ash, just very wide and solid. Almost looked like the core of a hydrogen bomb or an atom bomb plume going up.
U.S. Forest Service confirmed tonight that 5 people were known to have died at a logging camp, but there are fears that others as well may have been trapped. The area has been closed to the public as the rescue operation moves into high gear. Geologists are attempting to decide just what may happen next with the mountain.
This is the first volcano in North America in more than a century. The people of this normally peaceful corner of the United States are waiting nervously tonight to see if this is the climax of Mount St. Helens performance, or if in fact there is worse to come. Colin Holt, CBC News at Portland, Oregon.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now with the forecast. No wind blowing in your hair, I don't think, Joe, but yeah, no, you're looking good. But this morning I was sitting on my couch and I thought someone was trying to break into my house because the door was just going crazy with that wind.
Yes, you're not alone, Anita, in the winds wreaking all sorts of havoc across the south coast, and they're still going for parts of Vancouver Island tonight. Let me take you to pictures from Victoria earlier today. This is really where we've been seeing the bulk of the power outages and the trees down on the south coast of Vancouver Island and the east coast. You can see the waves here. We're still under severe wind warnings for the strait. Checking the latest, still about 20,000 customers without power on North Vancouver Island, 34,000 across South Vancouver Island, and even here in the Lower Mainland and the Sunshine Coast, almost 7,000 without power. You can see the sunshine, though. We did see the rain move through quickly, but heads up that we are looking at gusts to continue over the next couple of hours. Here's just a quick look at those peak gusts. And it wasn't necessarily the strongest winds that did the most damage. It was the fact that many of these locations have seen these winds now for 4 or 5, 6, 7 hours straight, and we still have that wind warning in place for the southeast coast of Vancouver Island. Notice the white warnings in place east of Chilliwack. Hope to merit under a snowfall warning because this low is bringing it all. The winds, the rain, and a drop in snow level. So winter driving conditions as this low races across the mountains. Quite the clearing behind, though. Check out the forecast for all of the coasts of BC. Prince Rupert, Port Hardy, Victoria, looking to see that sunshine. Kelowna, I think you'll get some as well. Watch for some wet snow in Williams Lake tomorrow morning. Chance of an afternoon shower in Prince George. But all in all, Anita, this is the stretch we've been waiting for. Is that 5 days in a row? Yes, it's true.
Wow.
You're welcome, everyone. Finally.
Yeah, thank you, Johanna.
Well, I didn't do it, but I'm happy to deliver it.
Well, we are looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
And hockey fans, I think, are looking forward to this. It's the 2022 version of the Battle of Alberta. It's finally upon us. And if the previous matchups are any indication, tonight, and really this whole series, is going to be intense. Min Dhariwal is at Edmonton's Rogers Place, where fans are piling in to watch Game 1 from Calgary.
The grainy video of Battle of Alberta's from a bygone era is still fresh for many hockey fans and former players alike. The Oilers got the upper hand back then, but it could be a different story now. Even the greatest Oiler of all time, Wayne Gretzky, is predicting a Flames win. Former Flames goalie and Battle of Alberta survivor Mike Vernon remembers the legendary battles of the 80s well. He says the new chapter won't disappoint.
It got both cities involved. It got the media involved, and every game became more intense, and it was a great formula. The rivalry is a great thing for sports, and there is no doubt it's here and alive right now in Calgary.
2022's version could go down as an all-time classic. Both teams have plenty of firepower. Defensively, the Flames have the edge, especially in net with Calgary's Jacob Markstrom, a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. Manny Granado runs an Oilers podcast in Calgary. He's cheering on enemy territory.
It's exciting. I haven't seen this town be excited about hockey in a long time, and I think it's great.
Even on the streets of Edmonton, hockey fans are looking forward to this series.
All the playoff games so far have been sort of nail-biters where the Oilers are concerned. So yeah, definitely a little nervousness, but mostly excitement because we're going to take it, so then it's fine.
And of course, there's always one fan wearing the bright red jersey on game day.
Two very good teams. They're trying to go for the Stanley Cup, and they want to prove that this is their year. They want to prove that they can go the distance, for obvious reasons. So it'll be interesting to see. I think this will be a very, very tight one.
So, as the hockey pundits say, buckle up. It's going to get bumpy, maybe even bloody, once that puck drops.
And because of that Calgary-Edmonton game, our newscast tonight is just 30 minutes long. And some days we won't have any TV broadcast at all, as you've probably noticed. That's because of the playoffs. But you can watch us every weeknight at 6 p.m. online. You can find our show on CBC Gem, YouTube, and Facebook. Just search CBC Vancouver. Thanks for watching us tonight. I'm Anita Bathe. Enjoy the hockey game.